Well, football is not coming home. An agonising game for England, beaten 2-1 in the European Championship final last night.
Yes, 58 years of hurt continues. Paul Coyte is here with all of us. And frankly, Paul, the better team won.
They did. I've said this too many times. I've seen this film a million times before. We always have the hope before these games, but whether there was the true belief, you could try and manufacture that belief and think, you know what, this is it. This is going to be the one. The amount of people that I know that went out to Berlin, people that just got any flight and they got boats over and any way they could get there just to be there for it. But it's then when you question it straight after the game and think, was it really worth that trip after that performance? Because the performance just wasn't good enough by England.
Well, I'll tell you, the second half began and Spain tore England apart down the left wing.
Absolutely.
And no one plugged it. No one blocked it, and both goals came from the left wing. Yeah,
Nico Williams split them in two straight off the bat, so already they're on the back foot. And it looked like for that next 10, 15 minutes, you think this is going to be a landslide. We're in all sorts of trouble. But then the change happened, and then Harry Kane was taken off and thought, well, OK, maybe something's going to happen now. Foden as well, and Cole Palmer came on. Now, he changed things in the last game against the Netherlands and put that ball through for Ollie Watkins to score, and scored just the most fantastic goal. Came out of the blue, and that is the time, as England fans, as everybody think, now, go on, let's move on and try and get a second, because the momentum was with them at that point, but they didn't. That's the problem. Sat back, there were mistakes then at the back, and then 2 minutes from the end, Spain scored the winner. No England fan can look back on that and go, well, I mean, we look back at all the semi-finals and the few finals that there's been before, and you think, oh, it was so unlucky, and this happened and that happened. There is no argument. There's nothing anybody can say. Nobody can look back and go, oh, if only that had changed, because we're beaten by the better side. That's it.
Well, what is coming home today? Jack Carson, our man, our reporter, who is there. So let's go to him. Jack's in Berlin, and he'll bring us up to date with what's the mood there today.
He looks all right, though, doesn't he? You look OK, Jack.
Had any sleep?
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. About a few hours, so it's feeling even more raw and even more rough, I think, this morning. I think my own expectation going into this, I think, like you say, we all kind of realised that Spain were going to be the toughest side that we'd have faced in this competition. Of course, coming in the final would mean it would hurt a little bit more. I wasn't personally as devastated losing last night. Of course I was, but not as much, I think, because of how soon we were in another European Championship final. I think that kind of maybe took the edge off, of course, how devastating the loss to Spain was, given also the fact of how badly we played. You know, Gareth Southgate in his post-match press conference was quite open and honest, as he kind of always is, really, and said we just didn't keep the ball well enough, and you can't just chase a team like Spain around the pitch for kind of 60, 70 minutes and not really feel it towards the end, where Spain looked like they still had that energy, and we just looked like we were just dropping further and further back. And of course, the conversation really this morning is, of course, turning to Gareth Southgate's own future within this England side. Does he stay on? Of course, lots of former footballers like Rio Ferdinand and other pundits saying the FA have got a big decision to make, because on that one hand, he has been England's most successful manager in recent times, to take us to successive finals, to take us to a semi-final of a World Cup and a quarter-final. If you'd said that 10, 15 years ago, you would have snapped that person's hand off if you could take that deal and see England, progress and become, this great team within international football again. But again, it came down to the players on the pitch, and it felt a little bit more, maybe, upon reflection across this tournament, that we'd been a little bit too individual, not so much great as a team, having to use those individual players and that quality rather than as a team take those risks, be brave. But Ollie Watkins, of course, was substituted on 60 minutes for Harry Kane yesterday, talked about how much Southgate has brought this group together, the togetherness that they've got. He's talking about the unbelievable 7 weeks that he's had, but of course, England weren't easy to watch. Harry Kane as well, speaking after the game, saying that he loves Gareth Southgate and the team wanted to win it so badly for him, but of course they just felt short. Southgate himself commented on his future as well. You know, the privilege and the opportunity to have got to another final, but he can't help but realise, you know, how much this hurts right now. It's too early for him, he says, to make a decision. He'd been questioned on it during the tournament as well, and he'd said at that time that he was too emotionally involved in this tournament. But it will take some months and take some weeks for Gareth Southgate to decide what's next for him.
Thank you. That's an interesting one, isn't it?
I tell you. I'll tell you what, though. Jack said, you know, you snap your arm off or your hand off or whatever you take off to actually get to a semi-final. I wouldn't. To win a final would be one thing. It's all very well getting there, but you've got to win it. There's no point.
But is it just a bit of a thankless job? You know, you're never going to be popular unless you win everything to beat England.
I think to win anything, actually, Isabel, we'll take anything.
Fair enough.
Do you know what I thought was good? What's his name? The goalie?
Jordan Pickford.
Yeah, Jordan Pickford.
He was one of the few that had a very good game.
I thought he had a good tournament.
So did I.
Very, very good tournament. And why is he stuck at Everton? Why is he there for?
Hello, Manchester United scouts are hovering already.
Well, I would take him.
Yeah.
No,
I thought he had a very good tournament. There were a few that didn't. I don't think Declan Rice played very well yesterday. I mean, I don't want to single anybody out and saying, well, they weren't good enough. People will talk about Harry Kane and the reason it didn't work for him. But on the whole, the team weren't good enough. We had moments. We didn't have whole games.
You had certain amount of luck at various stages, and people put it down to great tactical nous and things. You think, well, if the substitutions had been made earlier,
of course,
the score could have been different. But there we go. That's it. Not to be.
Yep.
And we'll talk again. We've got some guests today.
We do. We'll speak to Mark Lawrenson. Who else do we have? Actually, we're going to speak to Mark England, who's the chef de mission for the Olympics.
Right.
Who will join. He'll probably have a few things to say about that. Because I'm giving up on football and going purely Olympics.
Purely Olympics now, and he's responsible for getting the British team.
That's right.
All together and all the logistics.
Because after what I said to you a little while ago, for 4 years' time, he is the guy that we need to speak to find the sport that suits us. Because I don't think it's over for us yet. And talking of which, Peter Shilton will be with us as well at 8 o'clock. Shilts is back.
Excellent.
So it's, you know what it is?
Well,
it's closure is what we're going to have. We're going to talk about it, get it out of the system, and then for tomorrow we can forget about the whole thing.
What a